Greetings, everyone. My name is Father Boby John, CSC, a priest of the Congregation of Holy Cross. I serve as the National Co-Director of Holy Cross Family Ministries in the United States, based at the Father Peyton Center in Northeastern Massachusetts. It's a joy and privilege to be with you today and to share the gospel reflection for this 30th Sunday in Ordinary Time. In 1953, Sir Edmund Hillary, fresh from conquering Mount Everest, visited a school in Nepal. A young climber, not recognizing him, began correcting his technique as Hillary held an ice axe. The other schoolchildren looked horrified, but Hillary simply smiled, listened patiently, and thanked the boy. Imagine the first man to stand on top of the world, bowing down to the wisdom of a child. That is the kind of humility that can only come from true greatness. Jesus' parable of the Pharisee and the tax collector from the gospel today is not about villains and heroes. It's about postures of the heart. It's not about two types of people. It's about two ways of standing before God. One man stands tall, measuring himself against his neighbor. The other bends low, measuring himself only against God's mercy. Consider Naaman from the Old Testament, the Syrian commander from the second book of Kings. He arrives with gold and gifts to buy his healing from leprosy. But Elisha the prophet, he doesn't even greet him, but just sends word, wash in the Jordan 7 times. Naaman is furious. It feels too humiliating. Yet, when Naaman finally lowers himself into that muddy river, healing begins. Dear friends, pride delays grace, and humility, it unlocks it. The truth is, pride is exhausting. We spend so much energy polishing our image, our achievements, our reputation, even our piety. Think of Moses. The book of Numbers, chapter 12, verse 3, calls him the most humble man on earth. Yet, Moses was hardly timid. He confronted Pharaoh, split the sea, led a nation. And his greatness lay not in his resume, but in his dependence. He never forgot the burning bush. I am who I am, said God. And Moses' role was never to shine, but to reflect. When King David danced before the Lord as the Ark of the Covenant returned to Jerusalem, his royal robes became disheveled. His wife Michal was mortified, saying he had distinguished himself like a vulgar fellow. David's response was revolutionary. He said, I will celebrate before the Lord. I will become even more undignified than this. And he wasn't performing for human approval. He was worshiping for an audience of the one who matters. The Pharisee in today's gospel suffers from what we call spiritual spectatorship syndrome. His prayer reads like a performance review delivered to the wrong boss. He catalogs his fasting, tithing, moral superiority, and impressive credentials for impressing people. But God isn't hiring based on religious resumes. In 2002, a Japanese railway company made world news. One of their trains had arrived 20 seconds early, not late, early. The conductor bowed deeply before passengers and apologized. The company issued a formal statement admitting the mistake and pledging it would not happen again. Imagine that, a world where people apologize for being too efficient. It's almost comic, but also very revealing. True humility is not about self-deprecation. It's about accountability, about living with an awareness that one's actions affect others. Humility is not groveling either. It is living in reality. As Mother Teresa said, if you are humble, nothing will touch you. neither praise nor disgrace, because you know what you are. The tax collector was anchored in reality. He prays, Lord, have mercy. And Jesus says, that man went home right with God. So here is the paradox. The lower we bend, the freer we stand. When David confessed his sin in Psalm 51, he didn't lose his crown. He regained his soul. When Moses admitted his weakness, he found his calling. And when Mary said, be done unto me, she became the vessel of salvation. Dear friends, humility is not weakness. It is the space where God does His strongest work. So perhaps the real prayer today is not, Lord, make me better than others, but Lord, make me honest before you. And heaven is not filled with the impressive, but with the forgiven. The question for you today, it isn't whether people notice your spirituality. It's whether God recognizes our authenticity. When we perform for crowds, we get crowd responses. But when we pray for God alone, we get divine transformation. May God bless you today.